All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going to uncover exactly how elite leaders manage to think, decide, and execute at a significantly higher level than everyone else. And you know what? The secret really isn't about just working harder. It's actually about closing the gap between perception and reality. Throughout this explainer, we're going to break down the exact mechanics of why most professionals aren't actually reacting to the truth, but rather to a highly distorted version of it. By the time we wrap up, you're going to have a concrete framework to instantly improve your decision-making and ultimately your leadership.
Most people believe they see the world clearly. They do not. Seriously, just let that sink in for a second. It's a bit of a gut punch, isn't it? I mean, we all walk around with this core assumption that our view of a situation or a conversation or a business challenge is just the objective truth. We trust our own eyes and our own reactions completely. But as we're about to see, this single foundational mistake impacts literally everything, from your business growth to your relationships, your confidence, and, ultimately, your income.
So let's get into Section 1, the illusion of clarity and your internal model of reality.
Look, the hard truth here is that you are rarely making decisions based on actual reality. Instead, you're operating strictly from an internal model. And those are two very, very different things. When an event happens, you don't just see the raw data. You pass it through this deeply personal lens, one that's crafted by your fears, your ego, past experiences, and your emotional reactions. You filter it all through your insecurities, your ambitions, your very identity, and a massive pile of unconscious assumptions. Our brains are magnificent survival machines, absolutely, but they are incredibly prone to playing tricks on us, happily dressing up reality in whatever outfit feels the most dramatic that day. You see a highly filtered version of reality, and then, and here's the dangerous part, you mistake that interpretation for the absolute truth. Think about what this means for your daily execution. If your internal model is distorted by all these filters, your disciplined, hard work can actually take you in the exact wrong direction, simply because your compass is broken.
Which brings us to Section 2, reality versus interpretation, or fact versus story.
So there is a stark, rigid boundary between a neutral fact and a subjective story. Reality is simply what objectively happened. Think of it like this. If there was a security camera in the corner of the room, what would it record? That's reality. No drama, just data. Interpretation, on the other hand, is the story your mind immediately attaches to what happened. The human mind is a meaning-making machine, and it rarely lets a raw fact just sit there without dressing it up in some kind of wild narrative. Let me give you a highly relatable example. Picture this. A salesperson just finished a massive pitch. They poured their heart into it. The client looks at them and says, "We're still thinking about it." Now, what's the reality there? The objective reality is simply that they are still thinking. The data processing is ongoing. But what does the salesperson's mind do? Oh, the interpretation kicks into overdrive. Instantly, the story becomes, they hate the presentation. Then it spirals to, they're definitely going with another agency. And finally, I completely lost the deal. Literally, within 5 seconds, a totally neutral statement of fact has mutated into a total mental catastrophe.
And here is the absolute kicker. Your emotional reaction happens to the interpretation, not the fact. That salesperson isn't feeling anxious and defeated because the client is thinking. No way. They're feeling defeated because their mind invented a whole story about losing the deal. High performers, the truly elite leaders, learn to recognize the split-second gap. They learn to hit the pause button before they emotionally attach to an invented, fictional story.
Now, what's fascinating is how this perfectly maps out a glitch in our brains. Why do we invent these negative stories in the first place? Well, it's because the human brain absolutely despises uncertainty. It hates a void, so it fills in the missing blanks instantly and automatically. When your boss is completely silent, your brain translates that void into rejection. When someone offers perfectly neutral feedback, you filter it into criticism. A delay in a project timeline? Instantly felt as failure. Even pure neutrality from a peer is perceived by our primitive brains as danger. Honestly, most of the stress you experience in any given week comes entirely from this invented meaning, not from the actual objective reality of your situation.
Let's move into Section 3, the cost of distortion, and solving the wrong problems.
If you're an overwhelmed business professional right now, we really need to agitate exactly what happens when you carry an inaccurate map into your daily life. The fallout is just massive. You waste immense amounts of effort shadowboxing with problems that literally don't exist. You misread incredible opportunities because your fear filter told you it was a risk. You overreact emotionally to your team, which totally damages trust. You end up attacking the symptoms of a business problem instead of the root cause because your assumptions blinded you. You create unnecessary fear. You inadvertently sabotage relationships with defensive posturing, and ultimately, you lose your strategic clarity. You simply cannot steer ship if you are hallucinating the icebergs.
This right here, this is a massive light bulb moment for so many people. If you feel constantly burned out, hear me on this. You are exhausted, not because you're working too hard, but because you are constantly solving the wrong problems. You're burning precious cognitive energy, battling invented meanings, defending against perceived criticisms, and stressing over fictional outcomes instead of just dealing with actual, objective reality.
Which brings us to Section 4, the leadership principle, becoming an observer before a reactor.
So, how do we actually fix this distortion? We have to shift from being victims of our own distorted filters into a posture of high-level control. It's a real game changer. The core rule here is that leaders absolutely must become observers before they are reactors. Your actual capability as a leader isn't defined by your technical skills. It's determined entirely by your ability to pause, assess the raw data, and completely separate fact from emotional fiction. You have to learn to watch your own mind try to create a story and then consciously choose not to buy into it.
To do that, you need a solid mental toolkit. So here is the exact chronological sequence to hack your brain's interpretation cycle. When you feel a negative emotional trigger, just stop and ask yourself, number 1, what actually happened? Like, strip away all the adjectives. Number 2, what story did I just attach to that event? Number 3, what hidden assumptions am I making to support that story? Number 4, what hard evidence do I truly have that my story is correct? Honestly, usually the answer is 0. Number 5, what else could be true? Expand the possibilities. And finally, number 6, what would a calm, strategic leader see in this exact same situation? Walking through these 6 steps literally rewires your reaction in real time. It pulls you right out of the emotional brain and puts you squarely back into the logical, executive center of your mind.
And that leads us to our final part, Section 5, closing the gap by questioning your map.
Ultimately, the quality of your entire life and your career is directly tied to the accuracy of your internal model. And here is the ultimate contrast we've been building toward this whole time. Most people will go their entire lives without ever once questioning their map. They'll just assume their anger, their fear, and their stress are just the inevitable results of living in a difficult world. But elite performers, they operate entirely differently. Elite performers actively question their map every single day. They hunt for their own blind spots because they know for sure that clarity is their greatest competitive advantage.
I want to leave you with one really provocative question to chew on today. Honestly ask yourself, where in my life am I reacting to a story instead of reality? Seriously, take 5 minutes after this explainer ends to just reflect on that. Find that one area. Maybe it's a tense client relationship, a bottleneck with your team, or even a personal goal you've been avoiding where you've let an invented story dictate your actions. Strip away the fiction, find the objective reality, and act from there. Because that, my friends, is exactly how you close the gap.